Hey, Leafs family, hockey world, what's going on? This is the Leafs Convo podcast. I'm Norman James. My podcast partner in crime, Mike Augello, is in Dallas, Texas. He is there to cover the 2018 NHL entry draft beginning tomorrow evening. We know the Leafs pick 25th. They're going to make the pick, right? That's what we think. Kyle Dubas's first draft as head of the Maple Leafs, general manager. You know he is going to rep big time. Mike and I are going to talk about the draft, the lay of the land, what to expect. Also, the one-year deals Dubas handed out to Calvin Pickard and Connor Carrick. What's behind these deals? Just some housekeeping, or is Mr. Dubas setting the table for perhaps a bigger transaction to come maybe this weekend? Plus, we talk about John Tavares, John Carlson, Chris Tanev, all kinds of other stuff. It's a special edition of the Leafs Convo podcast. Me from London, Mike Augello from Dallas, Texas. You ready to convo? Let's go. From Dallas, Texas, the one and only Mike Augello representing Cheektowaga, New York. Hello, sir.
Good morning, Norman. I am deep in the heart of Texas, and it's way too
That
hot.
is why you stay in your hotel room and crank the AC. You're not paying for it. Well, you kind of are, but you're not. So stay in there, stay cool. The big night is fast approaching. We need you healthy and ready to go, Michael.
Yes, and I did follow your instructions last night. Went out for a little bit of a meal in downtown Dallas, and then came back and watched the Yankees game on my computer, and chilled and enjoyed the AC. So yeah, now I'm fully after a good night's sleep, I'm fully prepared for the next 3 or 4 days of hockey news.
Look, Dallas, Texas is no North Tonawanda, but you'll get used to it. So we're excited for the draft. Our friend Kyle Outridge has been supplying us with prospect player profiles, potential picks for the Maple Leafs. You like the alliteration there. Mm-hmm. And that's the take on our Leafs Convo YouTube page right now. We know the Leafs are picking 25th. We can speculate all we want. But right now, what I want to do is, since we have you for a brief time, is maybe just get into some of the Leaf signings. Calvin Pickard and Connor Carrick signed to 1-year deals. Give me your take on that. Is this just some housekeeping, just making sure some guys are in the fold, filling roster spots for the season to come?
Well, the Carrick signing, he's still an RFA after the 1-year deal that he signed. He's making 1.3, which is a little bit over the amount that you can bury in the AHL. Not to say that he would get sent down, because I actually think he would get claimed if they tried to send him down. But he's he's a serviceable defenseman, but if you saw last year, the fact that they played Calle Rosen at the beginning of the year, Andreas Borgman at the beginning of the year, Dermott and Pollock, and Carrick was the guy that when somebody got injured, he filled in and he played on the right side, but didn't seem like he was the first choice for Mike Babcock. I think he's going to serve that same role, and he's a right-hand shot, so maybe he plugs in on the bottom pairing, but I think he's basically paid $1.3 million for a little bit of insurance and somebody that they're familiar with, and that's not bad. With Pickard, they signed him to a one-way deal. He's a UFA after that year for $800,000, and I continue to think, and until I'm proven wrong, I'll continue to say this is insurance. What I think the Leafs are going to do is, if there is a deal out there where Garrett Sparks is at his absolute highest value, I still believe that Babcock at training camp next year will go with the pairing that he had this year, which is Anderson and McElhinney, because McElhinney had a great year and he's still under contract. And I think Sparks will get traded. And if he does get traded, the one-way deal for Pickard will be a detriment to teams wanting to pick him up off of waivers, because teams, maybe they will still do that. But if they try to send him down to the minors, it's $800,000 on their AHL roster. Teams like Toronto can do that because they're a very rich team, but other teams may not want to have an $800,000 one-way salary in the AHL. So I think that again, that's insurance. And in case McElhinney falls back and they do trade Sparks, you've got an NHL a proven NHL backup in Pickard. So I think that they were smart signings. They weren't costly signings by Kyle Dubas, and I think it sort of hints at things that may happen.
We hope lots of things happen. This is the Leafs Convo. Norman James in London, Ontario. Mike Augello joining us from Dallas, Texas, site of the NHL entry draft, which goes down Friday night. The Maple Leafs picking 25th. We assume they're going to make the pick, but between now and then, anything can happen. So I'm reading about Chris Tanev rumors to the Maple Leafs on social media as well as online, hockey blogs talking about Chris Tanev being a useful piece for the Maple Leafs if they were able to get their hands on him, considering, he's big, he's rugged, he's not a major point producer, but could certainly help balance out a Leafs defense that seems to be offensively heavy and defensively insufficient. Now, Chris Tanev has been linked to many teams, considering where the Vancouver Canucks are. I don't liken them to a contender by any means. And the Maple Leafs are certainly one of those teams that would be a good destination for Tanev. So why don't you address the Chris Tanev to Toronto rumors?
I mean, it's not a new rumor because his name and the Leafs have been connected for at least 1, maybe 2 years. Ever since him and Morgan Riley played, I think it was at the 2016 World Championships. They played on the same defensive pairing. They look really good together. Tanev is a Toronto native. He's a right-hand shot, so he sort of checks all the boxes. I believe he only played 47 games last year. He's missed almost 70 games the last 2 years due to injury, and it's not one injury. It's a variety. So it's sort of like a Joffrey Lupul type of situation where he just seems to be injury prone. He blocks a lot of shots. He's 28, but I think his hockey age is a little older, but he's only got 2 years left on his contract. His cap hits $4.45 million. And because of those factors, and also because, the Canucks recently re-signed Erica Brandt and they have Alex Edler under contract for another year. They're sort of going through a little bit of a rebuild, and maybe they think it's time to move Tanev while he has enough value that they can get something, but maybe they want a little bit more of a cap relief if they're going to go and spend big money in free agency. So I think, and the rumor came out of a guy named Rick Dallowall, who's a Sportsnet reporter in Vancouver. And I think it makes a lot of sense because I don't think the Leafs would have to spend a ton, not be a package that they would have to spend to get a Noah Hannafin or a Justin Falk or Erik Karlsson or something like that. So it would be a more reasonable package. But they're probably still, for a defenseman like Tanev, going to have to give up a Kasperi Kapanen or a Connor Brown or somebody like that because the Leafs are heavy at wing, and teams that are trading defensemen are going to be looking for a young forward who's controllable or cheap, and that's what the Leafs have in big bunches.
I'm really excited about the next 48 hours with the draft approaching. Not just the picks, but a lot of the side deals. It'll be interesting to see what Kyle Dubas, how he wants to carry himself in this new world of him being the leader of the Maple Leafs. He's going to get a lot of congratulatory sentiments coming his way, which are well deserved. He obviously was the maestro for the Calder Cup winning Toronto Marlies, and now applying his talents to getting the Maple Leafs to the next level. Wouldn't that be something if, Kyle Dubas high fives and shakes hands and sits down at the draft table, and then whoever it is, Gary Bettman, gets up to the podium and announces Kyle Dubas has pulled off something incredible. That's what I live for as a hockey guy. I mean, people love to break down who's making what and how the salary structure of a team works to benefit the overall big picture. But for me, I'm old school, Mike. I love the deals. I love the trades. I love the big signings because I'm a throwback from the era where that kind of stuff happened all the time, almost to a point of recklessness. So, I guess the anticipation from my perspective is that something big is going to go down. You're there in Dallas. I'm not sure how far you've spread your tentacles hockey-wise. Are you sensing any sort of vibe that, we could be in for a fun ride here over the next few hours?
Yes, there's a vibe, but I don't know whether it's Leaf-specific or just league-specific because, I mean, the Erik Karlsson thing is going to happen. And I'm not saying with Toronto, I'm just saying it's going to happen one way or the other with one of a number of teams. I think there are going to be a lot of trades. Now the salary cap reportedly is going up to 79.5 or to 80 million, so around there. So that's an increase of about $4.5 to $5 million. That might help teams like Washington retain John Carlson on a new deal because they have more money to spend. But again, you're getting this close to unrestricted free agency, and then you can apply this to Carlson, to John Tavares, to James Van Riemsdyk. Wouldn't you at least go to that 5-day window and find out what other teams are offering? So, I mean, there's that anticipation, but I think there's going to be a lot of anticipation in terms of trades, even involving first-round picks. Not only the Leafs, I think Montreal might trade the 3rd overall pick. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Ottawa with the 4th overall pick, because that's involved in that Matt Duchene deal, and they're just a cluster right now. So you don't know what they're going to do. And so I mean, there's a lot of things, and I think Kyle Dubas will be involved in it, but I think he'd like to keep the 25th pick, but I don't think that's going to stop him if there's an opportunity for them to get a top 2, top 3 defenseman, and that team insists on the 25th pick. I don't think he's going to hesitate to trade the pick.
We're just a few subscribers away from 600. Our goal by the start of the next season is 1,000. I think we'll get there. If you're listening to us through Hockey Buzz or wherever, and you like what we do, just hit subscribe. It's that simple. Michael, I was talking to a neighbor, a lot of Leaf fans where I am in suburban London, rightfully so. And, we talked a little bit about the potential of the Leafs going after John Tavares. And the initial response from him was, well, John Tavares would be nice, but the Leafs need to get a defenseman to help out with that blue line. We all know that. Would you rather the Leafs, just in a dream scenario, or Mike Augello's world, the perfect world for Mike Augello, would you rather the Leafs go and spend a whole boatload of money on John Carlson, or acquire a defenseman through trade, then spend the rest of that money, whether they have to be creative or not, on John Tavares? I
would not spend the money that I think John Carlson's going to get in free agency. He could eclipse PK Subban's $9 million a year. He may not, but it could be close. Well, I mean, Ekman Larson took less to sign an 8-year deal with Arizona, and it was 8.25. And if you're talking about percentage of the cap, the $9 million, if Carlson got $9 million, it wouldn't be the same $9 million that Subban got, because the cap was lower when he signed that deal. So I think Carlson could get very close to that if he hits the open market. And I think Tavares, if the Leafs got Tavares and were able to keep the forward core that they have right now, at least for a couple of years, it would be sort of a Pittsburgh Penguins situation where they could get away with a okay defense, and because their forwards would be so overwhelming. But I think they sort of need both. They need another dominant forward, and they need that top 2, top 3 defenseman. I don't know which one would be more beneficial to the end goal, but I think they sort of need both of them. For me, the 3 within the organization that are tradable right now, or that I would consider trading: Garrett Sparks, Jake Gardiner, and William Nylander. I know wanting to trade William Nylander, I don't want to trade, but I would put him on the table as a bargaining chip. Am I on point here? Am I a little off base? Mike, where would you, we're going to wrap it up here real quick, but just maybe a comment on those 3 guys as, movable from the Leafs perspective. I think that Sparks is movable. I think Gardner is movable in the sense that if they get another defenseman and they know that they're not going to sign or extend Gardner past next year, I mean, maybe the mentality of the organization will still be, we have a chance to win, so we won't trade him. But I think they learned their lesson from last year, in the sense that Bozak and Van Riemsdyk, they could have gotten a lot of return for them, and maybe still have been, contending. Or, they would have been in a playoff spot, but they could have beaten Boston without those 2. And I just can't, especially a defenseman who scored 50 points, I cannot see them just letting that player walk in free agency. So either trade him or sign him. So Nylander, I think they're going to get him on a bridge deal. Eventually, maybe he's the guy of the big 3 that gets moved. Friday evening, what goes down? I'm hoping a lot goes down, and we know we have the right guy in Dallas to cover it. Mike, you do great work. Be safe down there and have fun.
You've got to love that Mike Augello. There's a reason why he's so highly ranked and highly thought of when it comes to Leafs bloggers and writers. It's because he's so dedicated to the Maple Leafs beat, so thorough, so talented, and so humble. And let's not forget, somebody has to counteract all of the cocky madness that I bring to the Leafs Convo podcast. Michael, I love you. Stay in that air-conditioned room. Do not eat hot food, and you'll be there for the start of the draft Friday night. A couple of shout-outs. Jillian McLeod, our new Leafs Convo Facebook fan page administrator. Jillian, you've been with us since day one. Glad to have you aboard. And Kyle Outridge doing a great job with the take. Our player prospect profiles, you can see them on the Leafs Convo YouTube page, or just listen to the podcast that he is contributing to on Anchor, iTunes, and Radio Public. Don't forget, a limited time left to purchase a Leafs Convo shirt. Bonfire.com/TLC-gear. Go get yourself one. $20. Not too much money. You're contributing to the health of this podcast in the process. For Mike Augello, I'm Norman James. We'll talk to you soon. This has been the Leafs Convo. Peace.